Governor Brown, thank you so much for being here. It's really great to have you here. Is this your first time on Bloomberg Television?
I've been on, I think, sometime.
Okay, well, it's great to have you back. So, California's jobless rate is falling faster than any other state in the nation, including Texas, the most comparable large state. How do you sustain and if even increase that momentum?
Well,
How do you plan on doing that?
By building on what we have, on Silicon Valley and Biocom, in so many parts of the state, especially San Diego and Orange County, the great agriculture, the universities, UC, Stanford, Caltech, USC. There's a variety of modern pillars that drive the economy forward. We're also on the Pacific. We have great ports that are almost 40% of the trade of America. And wherever you look, and we have all the immigration coming in. So at every level of the modern economy, California is present. And what we have to do, of course, is to keep that balance, keep encouraging innovation, but also make sure that we work to reduce inequality, protect the environment, and really sustain this tremendous burst of energy and investment.
Now, California has one of the highest average incomes in the country, and it's going up faster than any other state, but it's creating a serious wealth divide. Nearly 1 in 6 people in California live in poverty. What are you doing to address that?
Well, what we're doing, of course, is directing our school funds to those areas that have greater challenges, low-income families, families that don't speak English, foster care kids. We have what we call the local control spending formula, where we reduce regulations and increase spending based on the need that the students have. It's a very novel formula that I don't believe any other state has. So that's important. We also have the state earned income tax credit. We also have our Medicaid program, which we call Medi-Cal, where we provide a full health care program, which we now provide to 12 million people. We've increased it 50% just in the last 3 years. We also have a very massive program to assist low-income people in taking care of their parents or the disabled in their family. So we have a very rich and pervasive safety net. Now, is it up to the global engine of both wealth and inequality? I'd say the global economy is moving faster, but I think we're doing a very credible job, but of course, there's always more to do.
Now, you were born and raised in San Francisco. You know how much the city has changed. You know how expensive it has become. The tech community in particular has been blamed for widening inequality, increasing income inequality. Is that fair? And if so, what should the tech community do about it?
Well, everything you do has a downside. There are some parts of America that are stagnant, that their principal industry left, and there's mass unemployment, and the kids leave, and it's quite depressing. California has the other problem. Everybody wants to come here, and low-income people from all over the world, very highly educated people, investors, tech people, they come to California. So given the limited amount of space, particularly along the coast, that drives up prices. So that is a problem that we're coping with. We have to build more housing. I'm also building the only high-speed rail in the Western Hemisphere, and that high-speed rail will be able to take people from Silicon Valley in a matter of minutes to parts of California where rent and housing is much cheaper. And I would say that would do quite a lot, as well as we raise the minimum wage, we provide benefits, sick leave and other things to try to make the work experience as best we can, at the same time encouraging innovation, encouraging investment, and making sure that the dynamism of California continues. So it is a balancing act, and there will never be a perfect moment. There's always an issue, but I would say I'd rather deal with California's problems, which are the problems of affluence and innovation and diversity, than the problems of stagnation and being in some economic backwater.
But do you think the tech community in particular bears some responsibility for this? And if so, should they be doing more?
Certainly when someone has a company, Their job is to make the proper investments, take care of their shareholders and their employees and the community in which they're at. And our job in government is to pass laws to set the bar at a reasonable level. I think we're doing that. And the trouble is the wealth is growing so quickly that the prices are moving up very quickly. And that is something that's very difficult. Government can't say, all right, hold down prices, we're going to regulate everything, because that would throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're dealing with a difficult situation. I would say there's probably no place in California that has more of a safety net, more of compensatory initiatives by government. But everything is a balance, and this is a pretty freewheeling investment environment, and you're always going to have excesses, and where we see a sensible way to curtail excesses, we certainly won't hesitate to do that.
Now, you have some experience presidential campaigning. You ran for president 3 times. What is your take on this election? We've seen the establishment candidates on the right, and to some degree on the left, rejected by many voters. How does this play out?
Well, I think the problem is the position that America's in, our position in the world, the growing gap between the rich and the poor, all these things create tension, and people want an answer. And unfortunately, it's very hard to have an answer when government is completely divided. People in Washington can't govern because they're divided between Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals, religious fundamentalists, libertarians, and all the rest. So we have a crisis of governance in the face of an increasingly difficult and dangerous world, and people are upset. And I have to tell you, the campaigns and the candidacies are not all that inspiring. But it's very difficult to be inspiring in the midst of this kind of challenge and complexity. So I sympathize with the candidates, and I would just say they're going to have to do better to win the support of the American people.
Now, some are saying that California's primary could be the Republicans' last stand, the establishment's last stand in preventing Donald Trump from winning the nomination. Is that nomination inevitable?
No, it's not inevitable. Mr. Trump doesn't have a majority. Like everything else, things happen in unpredictable ways. He's doing remarkably well, but he doesn't have a majority. So there's a lot to be. Stay tuned. There's much more to happen. And I certainly wouldn't want to predict what's going to happen in California. It's very open. I'd say anybody can win this thing.
Does it scare you, though, that he's that close to the nomination and thus to the presidency?
Well, I don't like to say I'm scared by these candidates. There's a lot of things I'm more concerned about. I'm concerned about the big issues facing America and the inability of the Republican and Democratic leadership to get together, whether it's on a Supreme Court nominee, whether it's to finance our roads and bridges, whether it's to increase our research and development, or if it's to deal with the negative consequences of globalization in the form of inequality. I'd like that to happen. The president, with all the hoopla, is going to disappoint people, because if we have a dysfunctional Congress, ultimately people are going to get mad at the president. So I think we're all in this together, and I certainly would like to do my part to make a more positive political environment.
Who are you supporting?
I'm not supporting anybody at this point.
Would you accept a VP nomination?
I haven't been offered one. I don't accept what I haven't been offered.
Would you be interested?
Not particularly.
Why not?
No, well, because I ran for president, not vice president.
How do you see the race playing out then?
I don't predict. I'm not a prophet here. I'd say.
Do you see a demise of the two-party
I'd say
system?
Hillary's very strong, and I'd say the Republican Party hasn't quite gelled yet, but it's getting close.
To gelling around Trump, or just?
Well, it's getting close to gelling. So, events happen in politics. Scandals occur, untoward events, comments made, and you never. It does look like it's shaping up. It looks like it's coming together, but I'd wait a bit longer before we kind of lock things down and say, now we know who the nominees are. I'd give us a few more months.
Is Donald Trump fit to be president?
I would say the idea that he's going to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it is absolutely preposterous and would create such tension with our closest neighbor that probably a dumber idea I can't imagine. Or maybe a more dangerous. It's dumber than it is dangerous.
Now, 4 of the top 10 companies by market cap are in California. But of course, you've got other states, other cities around the world trying to be the next Silicon Valley. How do you make sure that Silicon Valley continues to be the place where top talent is cultivated?
Silicon Valley doesn't happen overnight. You can't just come here, drink the water and take it home and think you're going to create Stanford and Apple and Facebook and Hewlett-Packard. It doesn't work that way. The evolution in this area has come through World War II, the aerospace industry, then the information technology, the space industries, and the internet, all that. That has been building based on the California system of higher education, the openness to new entrants. People come here and in a matter of months, they can find very important jobs. In a matter of years, they become CEO and presidents. And as a matter of fact, if you look at most of the governors, with the exception of myself and my father and Earl Warren, they all moved here. And within a matter of a decade or two, they're running for higher office. So what that means, we're very open. And a lot of these other places in the world are not, they're much more culturally conservative. So in that sense, I think we had to have a dynamism that we have to be very careful to nurture, but I'm not worried about other people grabbing it. It isn't for sale, and it's not really for transfer.
This encryption debate going on between Apple and the FBI has created an even bigger divide between Silicon Valley and Washington. Could Washington be at risk of losing the support of its biggest economic contributors?
Well, I think we have to, I'm not prepared to say what the right answer on that is, but I do think, terrorism is it's obviously a threat. But what people haven't talked about is nuclear terrorism. And the nuclear materials in the world are so widespread and would be so devastating if they were brought to New York or Washington or any other state or London or Moscow, that we have to be prepared to defang the terrorists. And whether or not you can create encryption that no one can ever look at, that's a topic I want to give some real thought to. I see Mr. Gates is on one side, and Mr. Cook is on another, and I'm not prepared to, at least on this program, offer my wisdom, because I think it takes more knowledge than I have.
The sharing economy has exploded, especially in California. Should companies like Uber make their drivers employees? Should they be giving them benefits? Where do you stand on this issue?
Well, I think that you have to respect the employment relationship. It's a matter now being tested in the courts. And we do have rules in California that will be interpreted by the courts. So I think the flexibility is very good, but I think you have to watch the exploitation of workers. And again, like everything else, it's a balance. The apps and the flexible sharing economy is incredible. I would like to see that certainly protect working people, but I'd like to see that applied to the service industry. I don't know, people keep saying higher education, we just have to throw more money. I wish we could find some technology that would reduce the costs while we expand the access. So this is one we're going to have to work out. I'm not going to work it out here, but there are some, there's points where workers have to have a sense of security, but this new amazing flexibility that is provided, we're going to try to combine the benefits of both the old style employment and the new style flexibility. And it's not going to be all the way one way or all the other way. We're going to find a balance.
Climate change may well define your legacy. You've had some success getting support on the Republican side for your policies. What needs to be done to create sustainable policies on a national scale?
Well, we have to get some Republicans to wake up to the fact that there is something called climate change. And it takes a real effort. It's going to take pricing carbon, and some Republican conservatives have called for a revenue neutral carbon tax. It's going to take investment in R&D so we can get zero emission vehicles. California, we're already at 25% renewable energy. We're going to go to 50% in 15 years. But this takes a national commitment. And the Supreme Court really dealt a blow to America's leadership on this issue when they struck down, or at least temporarily blocked, Obama's clean air initiative. This is really important. Climate change is real. We're going to have to prepare for a sea level rise of anywhere from 4 to 6 feet by the end of the century. That's going to take tens of billions, hundreds of billions, and we got to work both in adaptation and prevention through renewable and energy efficiency policy. This is damn serious. A number of politicians have their head in the sand, and we have to move forward with China, with the U.S., with Europe, with other countries. It's a global challenge, but America can provide a lot of the leadership and the initiative. But pending Washington waking up and getting off its dysfunctionality, California is providing a real path forward. We've developed a memorandum of understanding with over 120 states, provinces, and even countries. So we are committed to mobilizing countries around the world and states to lower their carbon footprint. So we're not waiting, but we know we really can't get to the goal without Washington and then Beijing and Tokyo and all the other major countries in the world.
This is your last term as governor. You said you don't want to be VP. How do you want your legacy to be defined? What do you want to define your legacy?
First of all, I don't believe in legacies. I really don't. That's a meme that has been developed in the last 20 years. I like to take the problems as they exist, whether it's climate change, high-speed rail, water efficiency, schools to helping low-income people, making sure our colleges are at the best, reforming our prison system. We've got a big menu of things to do. So how that will be viewed in 10 or 20 years, you'll have to wait 10 or 20 years, but don't try to anticipate. Everything will come in its own time.
California Governor Jerry Brown, thank you so much for joining us
today
on Bloomberg Television. Great to have you.
Great to be here.